Hey, my name is Matthew Jordan. I was a producer on Counter Column.
And my name's Gilbert Cirola. I was the director, and both of us were writers. The main character is from San Antonio, Texas, a young guy who grows up in a really rough environment and is making poor choices, getting in trouble and all that kind of stuff. And he winds up joining the Army. And then
there's an Indiana guy who's from Midwest. He's always wanted to be in the Army because his dad, who died when he was young, was in the Army. Mm-hmm. But he has a stepdad that he doesn't get along with. So he kind of leaves because of family problems and also because he wants to be like his dad.
They meet in basic training, and there's conflict right off the bat the moment they meet. And it just goes back and forth. And eventually things happen, I can't tell you, but the main character winds up going home, a changed person, like a deeply changed person, but he goes back into the same environment that he came from. So it all started with an idea, and that idea came from someone in our church starting a class for men. He called it War College, to prepare Christian men for attacks against the church and the family. And so it got me to thinking about a lot of parallels between training for physical combat and training for spiritual combat. And so he asked me to write down some of these things, and I did. It took me a while. And then I was telling Matthew about it, and
I said, hey, that'd be great content to make a movie with. My story is that I really wanted to be in filmmaking since I was young and always looking for good ideas for a potential movie, and had never made a full feature film before. But I just said it nonchalantly.
Yeah. And when he said it, I literally stopped walking and said, that's it, let's do it, because I had no idea what I was going to do with this material.
Yeah.
And so that got us started on the course of writing the script. So it took a while to get him on board, I think. but after a while, we started meeting every Tuesday morning, from roughly 8:30 to 1 or 2 in the afternoon.
Yeah, just a half day, once a week.
Mm-hmm. Once a week.
And it took we did that consistently. I remember times I felt like, oh, this was a bad day, or like I didn't feel like meeting, but Gilbert would pull me in. I think that was one thing that I learned through this process, is that discipline is really important. Mm-hmm. And being consistent to work on something, even if you don't feel like it, can result in
there were many times when I was like by myself after work in my office writing something, thinking to myself, am I just wasting my time? Is this just a waste of time? I should be home. I should be, playing with my kids. I should be, I could think of 100 other things to do, but I just felt like we were called to do this, and so we just kept at it. I learned that the characters, especially the main characters, should have a character arc. So they're not the same person that they were in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
They're a different person. You have to have conflict. You have an antagonist and a protagonist, and you have to, as a writer, you have to not be afraid to drag your protagonist through the mud. I mean, just really give it to them.
And the main character should be the one with the biggest arc, I feel.
Yeah.
It's the biggest turnaround.
Yes.
If it's done well, will make your story the most interesting if that's the main character. Mm-hmm. So they start on this side and they end on this side. They have a shift, a huge change.
Yeah. If you go to a ball game and one side dominates the other, it's kind of boring. But when it's a close game and this side's scoring and that side's scoring, then it makes it for a more interesting game. And so it's the same thing with your characters. The antagonist, of course, has to seem stronger and have everything going for him, but you have to have wins for your protagonist too. So it's got to go back and forth, and you have to have conflict. That's what makes a story.
On our end, we're like, we are setting up some people here to cry at this point. We really want them to feel sad when this happens. Mm-hmm. So how can we make them happy?
Yeah, there's always the setup and the payoff.
Yeah.
So you set things up early in the movie, and then the payoff comes later. We started with the whiteboard, and we actually put 2 lines representing first, second, and third act. And then we just wrote down, oh, okay, this happens, and then this happens, and we put like a timeline.
Yeah.
And then we would take a picture of it and come back the next week and put what we had last week back up on the board. And we would change things, and then we would look for plot holes, and we would look for inconsistencies, or, well, wait a minute, if this is happening at this time, and then this is going to happen at this time, it doesn't work, and we would have to move things around. And once we got through, once we had that down, then we transferred all of that onto index cards.
Yeah. And we would color code them.
Yeah, we color code them. Like blue was for sad scenes.
Yeah.
Red was for angry scenes or conflict scenes.
Conflict.
You're gonna do it your own way, but we did it on sticky notes that were color coded too, and we laid them across this big table so we could see. Oh, we got way too much sad stuff over here, funny stuff over here.
Yeah.
So we would, it's good to take your audience on a roller coaster ride. It's sad and it's funny, and sad and it's funny, and the happy parts are kind of like a relief from the sad parts, and the sad parts are kind of like a fall from the happy parts. I mean, it's
a roller coaster.
It's a roller coaster.
Yeah.
It makes for an exciting movie. They say you can make a movie fast, good, and cheap, but not all 3. So we didn't have the money, so we did not do it fast. We did it slow, and we did it cheap.
We did it good and cheap.
And hopefully good. And so the fact that we didn't have money was actually worked in our favor to make it good, because you can't just like write a script in a short amount of time and it'd be good. You have to like review it. Like writing is rewriting and rewriting and making it better. And then it's also a collaborative thing. I mean, you could have a genius person who can write something really great, but since we're not geniuses, we each had different perspectives. And the important thing is, after a while, we've been writing for a while, and then the church secretary, Laura Starkey, she started having lunch while we were writing with us, and then she would put in some comments, and before you know it, she was part of our team writing the
I
script.
think what got her into it, we had we had hardly any girls in the script.
That was one thing she noticed.
Guy-oriented movie.
It was a very guy-oriented movie. We had no girl storylines or anything.
At one point, we looked at our script and we realized this all sounds very much fake, or it sounds like Matthew or Gilbert or Laura, but it doesn't sound unique to each character. And so what we decided to do was to try to think of backstories to explain things for the characters, and then also I remember basing characters off of people we knew.
Yes.
And trying to see it from their perspective and saying, how would this person respond?
Many of the scenes were actual things that one of us have experienced, and we used it in the movie. Yeah. So they're believable. Yeah. They're actual things that have happened.
And then some of the scenes in basic training we pulled from other people who told us stories of things. Mm-hmm. We interviewed several people who had gone through basic training recently. Yeah. And we pulled a lot of stories and ideas from that.
The first drafts are embarrassing. They're so bad. So bad. So if you write a script, it's going to be bad. So once we wrote like 6 drafts of the script, then we started giving it to other people. They would give us feedback, and it was really, really hard not to be offended or not to be hurt or like, what are you talking about? This person doesn't know what they're talking about.
But we didn't just pick random people.
No, we picked people who we thought could help us.
I reached out to people that I knew could be critical in a good way. Yeah. So they would be people that maybe had a bit against Christian films, or really people who were writers who would recognize cheesy writing.
So anyway, it went back and forth. We did another draft and another draft and gave it to new people, and then we gave it to military people because ours
that was important.
Yeah, ours is a military movie. And then I would call my mom on the phone and I'd say, well, how do you say this, in Spanish, or how, because I'm originally from San Antonio, Texas, and people there, well, at least people in our story, they talk very differently than from someone from the Midwest. And then Jan said, I wanted the actors to make it their own, so it feels more natural to them. So they would reword things a little bit, and that was a good decision because it adds more a touch of realism to it.
So the total time of writing was 3 years. We probably spent almost half a year, maybe 4 months, in just the story, laying it out to make sure it works.
So our pre-production started once we finished draft 9 and made revisions. We had draft 9 and we thought, okay, we're ready. And we started with a Kickstarter campaign. The day we reached our goal was the National Day of Prayer, which was the day we decided to make a movie 3 years earlier.
Yeah, it was the very day that Gilbert had shared his vision, just the ideas, and that was the day I said, we should turn this into a movie. That'd be good content for a movie.
Yeah.
So the very day that started everything, fast forward 3 years, same National Day of Prayer.
Not planned at all.
And we were successfully funded on Kickstarter. And just a testimony to that. So we've spent a lot of time praying throughout the whole process.
Yes.
And so every time we get together, we'll pray, say a prayer, and ask for God's creativity, ask for his help, bring unity. And then there were times that me and you would go walking and we just pray for like the actors and the crew to come
the future
together.
actors we didn't know, the future crew, the future,
and all for God to bring the money and all these things. And so there's a lot of prayer going on, and it's cool to see like God just blew us away with how much he answered prayers that we might have even forgotten we prayed. We had to find extras for the movie because the movie is about basic training and there's a lot of recruits in basic training. We had to find people that were willing to sacrifice like 3 weeks of their summer.
They had to be the right age,
and they had to be willing to shave their head.
Shave their heads, yep.
So we had a bunch of men, boys,
people
a lot of people with jobs couldn't do it, so it was kind of the high school demographic that we pulled from.
His little brother is one of them.
And then I ended up being an extra because we didn't have enough people. We had several people from crew step in and be extras, which I don't recommend.
They were willing to
but
cut
we
their
did
hair.
it, and we just needed more people, and I think it ended up being okay. So before each block, we had a table read with the actors.
Yes.
Tell us about how that
Now,
works.
a table read is when everybody has a copy of the script, all the actors involved, and we read through the script. Now, sometimes a table read can take a long time to get through it, but since we had it in 3 separate blocks, we were fortunate to just be able to take a chunk of it. And so in San Antonio, we sat in this room and then we went. Everybody read their parts as they came up on the script, and the first time we read it as it's written, and the reason is because everybody needs to know the basic flow of the story, where it's going, and all that, and also as a writer, I need to see how it sounds. I mean, does it even sound
with
realistic?
The actors, same.
With the actors, and then later. I asked the actors to read it as it's written, but later the actors came. I asked them to tell me how they would say it differently, and so then Grace was our scriptee, our script supervisor. We'd go back and rewrite the script. So we were writing the days before shooting, right? Like the night before shooting, we'd be writing, and even on set they would still say it even different than what they told me they were going to say it. And because I wanted it to be natural, and it worked out great.
There were also a few fight scenes in Counter Column, and one of them is a wrestling pit scene, and one of them is a Anthony getting in trouble scene.
Yeah, with some thugs on the streets and stuff. I've taken some martial arts and stuff like that, and there's I won't say a huge difference, but there is a difference between real fighting and movie fighting. Real fighting doesn't always look as good on screen, and so I learned that the hard way. I was like, no, do this, and I learned that in the movies, if you watch someone throw a punch, they're like, and it's like filmed from back here, and you stack the people. It's stacking this when the camera's when they're both in frame.
Yeah.
And you can be a foot away and the other guy reacts to it. And when you add the sound effects and everything, it looks real. You got to plan out everything. The more you plan in pre-production, the more efficient you'll be during production, which is so important. You got to have a plan before you show up on set. Once you're on set, you can change it.
Yeah.
But you cannot show up on set without a plan.
The call sheet is a daily paper, or for us, it was a text.
It was
PDF.
marching orders for the day.
Yeah.
This is what we're going to be doing, and when we're going to be doing it, and who we're going to be doing it with, and
It had contact information. It had all the actors we needed. It had call times of everyone.
what time sunrise is and what time sunset is.
It's like the
weather.
The lighting team needs to be here at this time. The camera team needs to be here at this time. This is the schedule for the day.
Yep.
This is when we're filming scene 1. This is filming scene 2. This is when this person's going into makeup.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
hair, and then they come to set. Really, all the critical information for the day was on the call sheet. That was something that was kind of done throughout production, but you also want to kind of prep some of these call sheets before production if you're planned out. It's not efficient to film the movie in chronological order. So you don't film scene 1 and then scene 2 and then scene 3. You film scene 20 and then scene 7.
And like the wardrobe person needs to know, is this a change of clothes or the same clothes
Yeah.
that the actor has to wear?
And so there was a number, right? It was like, oh, this is story day number 1. That we're filming. Oh, and then the next scene was story day number 5. And so it had to be very organized, very coordinated.
Yeah, we filmed some of the third act on our first block of shooting.
Yeah. And the crazy element that was really hard to deal with was the haircuts. Because in basic training, they shave your head.
Yes.
And so we filmed in San Antonio. We had to film all of the pre-basic training story of Anthony, and we had to film all the post-basic training story of Anthony. So we had to cut his hair in the middle of that.
Yeah.
And it was, and so we had to plan that.
Production, I think, is the most fun of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that's when you're on set working with the actors and working with the crew and on location, and it's hard. We work long hours from sun up to sundown, very little sleep, but it's great. It's just a really awesome experience, especially if it's something that you really believe in, that everybody there believes in, and if you have a good crew and good cast, it's just a blast.
Yeah. Just a quick difference between director and producer. Think of the director as the person that is in charge of filming the movie, and I guess the producer is the one who's in charge of making sure it can be filmed.
Yeah, he took care of a lot of the logistics, and I just took care of the vision. When we were doing the concept videos, he was there behind the camera, probably sometimes, and he was there, But when we started production for real, I kept looking around like, where's Matthew? Where's Matthew? For some reason, I was really missing you. And then one day, he said, hey, I'm going to go do this and do that, get a uniform or whatever. I said, I'll go with you. And then anyway, I realized he was doing all this other work, offset, just to keep things going. He arranged for a police car and a police uniform and he was doing his work, and so my work was different. So I had to come to grips with Matthew was not there. Because he was.
It's okay.
It's okay. You were like my security blanket. Because MJ Multimedia, Matthew
you had
Jordan.
to sprout wings and fly on your own.
Yeah, so anyway, but I had Dave. Now I had Dave and Jonathan and the rest of the crew, and they were great. Me as the director, it's all about being able to convey the vision to those around me, the actors, the DP, the director of photography. And then so I work really, really closely with the DP. And then the first assistant director, he rounds everybody up. He coordinates everything. He relays all the information. He does everything he can to protect me from these distractions. So I appreciated him so much. I thought he had the worst job. I thought I had the best job. The DP is a director of photography, And then he's got a whole bunch of people that help him. He's like the sergeant who barks out the orders. Like, I'm the officer who has the vision and the plan, and we're going to do this. And then he takes my vision and makes it a reality with the people under him. We block out the scene, and then we take the actors away, and then the crew comes, and they set up the lighting for what we just talked about, what's going to happen. In the meantime, we're over there, and we're rehearsing, and then when they're ready for us, we come back and we play out the scene where it's supposed to be played out, and we do multiple takes. I'd never been on a set before, and I think if I had been on other sets and I had seen how things are done, and then I think I would have been limited on my ideas and my thinking. But I would run these really bizarre ideas past Dave, and Dave had a really good, he put on this face that didn't show any emotion, just like, he would listen to my ideas, and then he would sometimes try it, but sometimes he would tell me why it didn't work or something I hadn't thought of, and I was like, oh yeah, I didn't think of that. The main character, Anthony, he would come up to me and say, hey, would my character do this because of this, he's going through this at this time, because we have one scene where he delivers a line and he walks away, and he bumps the other guy, as he's walking away, and then he came to me and said, you know what, probably shouldn't have done that, because he understood what was going on in the story. He understood the backstory. He understood everything. He said, I've already reached the point where my heart's changing, and so he didn't do it. And when he walks away and he doesn't do that, it really fit the story a lot better. And when sometimes the performance was like so good, and I was like so into it, and I would just forget to say cut.
Yes.
And sometimes Dave would say, Gilbert, and I was like, cut.
We had a production designer who came on, and she was in charge of the look of the film. Mm-hmm. And so she had to work closely with you and the DP, mm-hmm. and develop, the sets and mm-hmm. the props.
And then you have wardrobe. And so our lines were a little bit fuzzy between like wardrobe and props, because, we had soldiers with helmets and weapons, which is, they're kind of wearing, but it's kind of a prop too, so.
And that was a challenge for Countercolumn, because we needed Army uniforms. Not every movie needs Army uniforms.
Yeah.
And so we had to buy that. We had to get boots. We had to get all these things, name patches on the uniforms. When we actually filmed like the real life bits of our movie, so like present day, normal clothes, we had the actors just bring sets of clothes and approve those with the wardrobe supervisor, and that was the way we saved money and didn't have to buy clothes for every character. We had your wife and then my mom kind of combined forces and got a lot of people to volunteer to donate meals.
It was amazing. We had individuals and we had churches just provide meals, and good meals.
Yeah. Lodging was something that people just donated their homes. They let us let actors and crew live with them for the season of filming, because we had so many people from out of town. There is a job for everything, and you shouldn't try to fill these jobs, and trust people, delegate things. As a producer, I had to learn delegation, and I'm going to trust someone with the social media, I'm going to trust someone with the catering, I'm going to trust someone to do this. And none of them did it the way I would have done it, but they did it, and they did it well, and they did it better than I could have.
The tendency for us was to shoot for perfection, but that's impossible. So you shoot for excellence.
There was all these different chances that we could have had bad weather.
Yeah.
And then the one day we needed rain for a scene.
Yeah,
at the end of the day.
When we were writing the script, it was like I envisioned rain
on
this
scene,
particular scene, and we didn't get rained out on set at all. And the one time we wanted rain,
it rained.
It rained, and it rained good.
And it was like the whole day was fine, and then that final scene,
That's the miracle
started
story
pouring.
for this
It started pouring
section.
and pouring and pouring.
I'll tell you, at the end of production, and you view all the raw footage, it's like, it was so discouraging. It's like, this is terrible. It's terrible. And so we start piecing it together. Mm-hmm. We watch scene after scene, take after take, and it starts looking the same. I mean, it's just so hard to have a fresh eye after a while. So you have to walk away and come back. And so we put the movie together, basic movie together. This is how it goes. And it was like 2 hours and 17 minutes or something. It was way too long.
Yeah.
And
the first draft.
So then we did a second draft.
Yeah.
And just to give you an idea of the monumental task it was in the beginning, is we had 30 hours of film for an hour and 30-minute movie or something like that.
We had several visual effects after we edited, and this ranged from smoothing, stabilizing a shot, to adding shake to a shot, to taking a boom pole out of the shot.
A good visual effect is one that the audience doesn't even notice.
Yep.
So we had the San Antonio scenes, the Indiana domestic scenes is what we call them, and the Army basic training scenes. So even though Army basic training was shot in Indiana, we wanted it to look different than the domestic scenes of Indiana. So our colorist worked. It was like coloring 3 different movies, and he did an awesome job. So San Antonio was kind of like a gritty looking, dirty type of feel to it. Indiana had a more pleasant, softer feel to it, and then the Army had a really drab feel to it.
Yeah.
And so when we go from one scene to another scene, it's pretty evident or where you are, location wise.
Yeah.
And it all worked really well.
The music was kind of happening at the same time. We sent the film to Sean, and he composed it. Our sound designer, she's taken all the dialogue and separated it from any sound effects, so that there's only a dialogue track and then there's a special sound effects track. She's recreated sound effects, she's added background noises. Yeah. And the reason for that is so we can translate into other languages someday if the Lord opens up those doors.
Yeah.
She's also working on surround sound. So when someone watches the movie in a theater setting, they can have a full theater experience.
Yeah. They can have to fly over the plane, start from back here.
Yeah.
ADR stands for
Audio dialogue replacement.
There you go. The actor will come back into the studio, a recording studio, and be able to watch himself on screen and repeat his lines like he said them in there. Yeah. So we can get a really clear recording of it. Yeah. And so the first one we did was the chaplain. And that was because we actually lost the boom mic, the recording of it. All we had was the camera mics, I think. Yeah. And so the quality wasn't that great. But it's funny because I thought, well, it's not that bad. I can understand them. But once we did the ADR and I saw how much better it was, I was like, whoa.
It took us about a year to edit the film. Or no, 8 months maybe. I think from like October to June. We had planned to go ahead and put out the film ourselves. Locally, and had a theatrical run planned that would be like every night the film would show at the local theater, and we had a premiere planned for Indiana, and the theater that we were going to do it at declared bankruptcy, and then COVID-19 hit the nation, and so it's been canceled. And so it gave us
time,
closed doors, and clear direction from God.
They say that a movie is never finished, it escapes. So we were working toward a deadline, and we made the deadline, so we thought, hey, we're done, yay, we made it. But now everything's been pushed back, and now we have more time, and we have a distributor who's suggesting some changes. Yeah. So we thought, well, we have the time. Yeah. So we're still working on it.
Yep. And it's hard work, but it's really satisfying to see that it's better because of the new music and the cutscenes.
Yes.
And we're really thankful for this season to work on it more, and we really hope that the film can come out later this fall of 2020, possibly But it really depends on if we get a distributor and when they want to put it out.
If you get a chance, go watch Counter Column.
Whenever it comes out. The website, countercolumnthemovie.com. Countercolumnthemovie.com is where you can go for all the updates, and you can sign up for our email list.
Yeah, and newsletter.
Yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this, and look forward to seeing you in other videos, and hopefully meeting you in person.
Hello? Yeah, what's up? Yeah, homie, I got the stuff.
Was it never enough for you?
She should be in college. And in this world, if you want to have respect, you need to make money. Lots of it.
The Army? All respect to your dad. You don't want to make decisions based on your feelings.
I'll do it.
How could you, without even telling me?
I believe this is what God wants me to do.
Welcome to basic, ladies.
Wake up! Right here! We move like lightning and we sound like thunder! Pistol Sergeant! Ready on the right?
Let the better recruit win. Come on, put the bar, let's go!
Let's go, Myers!
Where are you from?
San Antonio?
What you doing here, man?
Ain't your business, dude. Roll up. This is the Army. Look, you didn't see anything, all right? This little stunt could ruin your career. You got nothing to say? I'm making soldiers here, not altar boys.
Was she worth it?